gonna die if I ever fall in love again. I'm gonna try when I see you walking down the street. I butterfly when I hear you calling out my name. I wanna sigh, cause I love you, love you. Everywhere I go, I say you're so fine, so fine. No one can see when I'm looking at you, at you. There's no time to ever see the skies blue, skies blue. Here's to looking at you for the good. Heaven's on the way, but I don't you have a few. Freedom's just another name for nothing left to lose. You go far away, but I still can hear your heartbeat. Doesn't matter what we do, 'cause baby, I will always be with you.
Oh my God, it's heavenly.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You know what? I just remembered something that a lot of the inspiration for the musical production was actually "You're Just Too Good to Be True, Can't Take My Eyes Off of You." But which one? Lauryn Hill's. You know, and that was some for the musical inspiration for the production. But in the chorus, the first words are "Heaven's on the way, but I go to hell if you do." And for me, that came in from well, we were studying and teaching. We were studying some Torah, actually. My producer and I, we were talking. I'll skip to more recent. Basically, there's this idea that shaman or a Hasidic master, that essentially, yes, they're very focused on doing the right thing and wanting to go to heaven and, you know, doing what's right in the eyes of the Creator, according to the Torah. But how do you know who's a true Hasidic master or Rebbe or leader? Someone who would be willing to go to hell for you, meaning they would do something wrong to save your life, essentially. And so heaven's on the way, yes, but I go to hell if you do, meaning my love for you is much deeper. It's much more than that, you know? Oh, it looks like we have a little comment here.
Yeah, Paria is writing. Hello, Paria. It's so nice to see you here. Hello, everyone. Mayer, you reflected your soul in your work, and it's obviously full of love. You are special. Thanks. Thank you so much, Paria. It's such a wonderful comment, and it's true. It's true. You can definitely feel so much soul, so much heart, and I mean, it's amazing how you. I think this is essentially the most important thing, that you reflect your feelings, your true feelings in your work, and you share them with the world. I mean, so that's why I think your music makes it even so much more alive, because you know that you're going through some personal struggles. And how does it help you maybe go through that right now?
Wow. First of all, who left the comment? Was her name Parla?
Paria.
Oh, Peria. First of all, thank you so much for your words. I appreciate that. You know, the positive reinforcement goes such a long way. I always say, you know, sometimes the most beautiful woman doesn't get told how beautiful she is, you know, and someone has to say something. And so thank you for saying what you're saying. Not that I'm a beautiful woman, but what you're saying, you may think that I'm it's obvious about that. Not that I don't identify as a beautiful woman, but you know, may it be obvious, but I thank you for your kind words. And Lara, thank you so much. Exactly. And to reflect on what you're talking about, Lara, definitely, I would say, usually my answer to this to you would be 100% music helps turn the dark into light, the pain into pleasure, and it's a great coping mechanism. It's a healthy coping mechanism, both for the writer and for the listeners. Usually someone who writes out of heartbreak helps people who are in heartbreak smoothly out of their situation in a very relatable manner. But I have to say that I was playing at an art exhibition on Thursday night. It was an epic art exhibition in Beit Zayit, which is one of the most beautiful places in Israel. And it was at the house of the Winters, Shimi and Sarah Winter. And it was by Safira Klein, who's an incredible artist. And she even sold one of her magnificent paintings, like I wish that I could have bought one of those paintings, so incredible. And my job essentially was to play the right music for the right moment. It wasn't a performance, so to say, where people were sitting around in front of me. Well, people were sitting around in front of me, but I wasn't there to steal the show. Essentially, it was really for the art, and I wanted to play the right music for the moment. So this gave me the ability to really jam out and to really flow in the moment. And I actually wrote a song I started writing a song in the moment while performing. I was writing a new song about what I was going to do, and that was extremely, extremely helpful. I have to listen back to the recordings to get it, because I haven't practiced it since. Thank God I recorded it, because it could just be gone with the wind, right? Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you could relate, Laura. You are also going through some hard times emotionally, and you're an artist in many ways, and you're an angel in many more ways. That blows my mind. What is it that you do to cope?
It's such a wonderful question. Thank you. And I think what you said, that arts and music and any kind of art really is a great coping mechanism. That's actually a whole theme for the next month at Artists&Angels, because I'm interviewing people and writing about the healing power of arts. And I just remember the story of how, when I was sick with very, very sick at some point with bronchitis, and I couldn't get it out of my system, and was in Berlin, Germany. And all the antibiotics and medicine just weren't helping me at all. So I just said, screw it. And I got up out of the bed, and I went to the museum of Italian Renaissance art, and just was sitting in front of the old masters and admiring Venice by Botticelli. And
Right.
and it really healed me, all these wonderful colors, and it just healed me. Next day I already felt better. And it was just an instinctual reaction, because there's not that much nature around Berlin. It was in February, everything, gray, a little gloomy. And that kind of like instinctual reaction was to go somewhere where there was sun, and it brought me to that place, to that museum, with Botticelli's painting. So to your question, I think, this is so powerful. And I feel so happy that, you are dealing with that in a healthy way, and especially through your music, and I think it makes your music even so much more valuable to people, because you put your real emotions, your real feelings in there. And I think I can really sense it, and others will sense it for sure. And just alone in this new single, congratulations on that. I think this is so amazing.
Thank you. And I appreciate that. I do appreciate that. You're reminding me actually of London, where it was great, where I actually wrote a song called Roses, which will be coming out probably after the summertime, because it's a grayer song, more for the winter. At least the summertime here starts around September. Different parts of the world over the equator, it's different, obviously.
A very common question, but I'm always interested, like, how did you come to becoming an artist, basically? I think I never asked you that. So
well, that's a good question. That's a fun question. When I was 3 years old, my grandmother gave me a violin. Right. She survived Auschwitz. My grandmother, Lana was her name. Linda, Lenka, Lana, many names over there. Wow. And she came back from Auschwitz, and luckily her house was not looted. And her brother's violin was there. And she had sent this violin to the Promised Land, to the Holy Land, which was then called Palestine. Okay. And she never made it herself. She made it to New York with my grandfather. They gave birth to my father. And eventually, when my parents had me, I would definitely say something that made me an artist is linking back through my father's genes to that violin player, very possibly. Music was there in the family. And at my mother's side of the family, I have a direct bloodline, a direct family tree to King David, to David HaMelech, who we can talk about soon. I love his teachings, and I'm learning his songs and studying his writings all the time. So definitely from my father's side, definitely from my mother's side. But eventually, when I was 3 years old, my grandmother came one day. I remember she came, and there was a moving truck and took out this huge, beautiful a Belarusian piano and put it in our living room. Beautiful wood, beautiful sound, and this violin made it to our living room, and it was given to me. And I would fiddle around on this violin, and I would take piano lessons on this piano, both from my grandmother who had survived Auschwitz. And so kind of my whole entire entry into artistry or music was through, I don't want to say surviving, though she is a Holocaust survivor, but she was a Holocaust thriver, you know. She was a comedian, my father's comedian, and these are people that just knew how to really suck the juice out of life and enjoy it, you know. And so I think that you could probably feel some pain in my music. You could probably also feel some pleasure in my music. So that makes sense. That's where it came from. And through the side of King David, you know, we said that King David lives forever. What do I mean that he lives forever? That he never died? Of course he died. So what is exactly that we're saying? And I always like to tell over the story said over by Shlomo Carlebach, who also was a direct descendant from King David, but he says, you know, I get onto the train, onto the subway, and there she is, the most beautiful girl I've ever seen in my life, and I could swear she's my soulmate. So I walk over to her, I say, what's your name? She says, oh, my name is Chaya, Eve. My name's Eve. Oh, Eve, wow, nice to meet you. You know, I don't want to creep you out. I don't know how long of a ride we have, but you know, I can really feel something here. Maybe I can take you out sometime. And she says, okay, sure, take my number. I take out my pen, I take out my paper, I write down her number. She says 435-0661, 718-435-0661. Write it down. She says, this is my stop. Nice to meet you. I obviously wait a little bit, and then I call her. And 2 weeks later, we go on a first date. 2 months later, we're meeting each other's parents. 4 months later, we're talking about getting engaged. 6 months later, we get engaged. 8 months later, we get engaged. 10 months later, we get married. Does the story blow your mind? Not so much. Maybe that a man approached a woman on a train. But besides for that, it's not such a great story. So let's back up. There she is. And what's your number? And she says 435-0661. I don't have a pen. I don't have a paper. This is before cell phones. Some of the people listening to this might not even know what pens or papers are. And she says, this is my stop. And she gets out. And the doors close. And I'm thinking to myself, 435-0661, 435-0661. My whole entire walk home, I'm singing to myself, 435-0661. But by the time I get home, which is a long walk, I don't know if it's 435-0661, 435-0061, 435-6601. And for 2,000 years, I'm dialing different combinations. And after 2,000 years, Jerusalem picks up the phone. And this is essentially our story of returning to Jerusalem, which we've been praying to return to for 2,000 years. And finally, after praying 3 times a day and trying different combinations from different country codes, we finally made it back to Jerusalem. And Jerusalem was actually built by King David. And the reason why we say King David lives forever, David Melech Yisrael Chai V'Kayam, is actually because he never gives up. He falls and he gets back up. So much so that his son, King Solomon, writes about him, 7 times a righteous person falls and gets back up. Shavi Yipol Tzadik V'Kam is saying the simple lesson is you can always back up, get back up. The deeper lesson is that you're not even considered a righteous person unless you've fallen at least 7 times. We all know the greatest path to success is failure. As much as you can is to try and keep on falling. And there's an art, you know, I have a son. There's an art to knowing how to get back up. There's also an art to knowing how to fall. And Jerusalem was built by King David, and it's the city that never gives up. It was built and destroyed 18 times. Everyone's conquering it, destroying it. And essentially this house of prayer for all nations, which would be my dream to be part of the rebuilding of, because it would be just a house of 3 times a year music festival with 70 nations of the world praying together. I mean, true vision of peace, not just political peace of everyone put down their weapons. So I'm talking about opposites coming together to create a new reality. Right. So this would be also King David, essentially what he wanted to build. And it was actually, the first one was built by his son, King Solomon. And this is the true story of never giving up. And I think also there's this element for me and my music of just never giving up, no matter how many times I had to move as a child in schools, or no matter, you know, my parents' divorce or my parents' remarriages, or how many times they've gotten remarried. And I could see that they're just never giving up. And I think that's probably also a big part of my music. And to answer your question in long, how I kind of became an artist, you know?
Wow, I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. And I love the, that you brought up the King David. I really love his Psalms. I think we all do, whoever reads them, and the wisdom behind them. And this um, failure, that what you said, it's so true. And, you have to get up. You have to continue doing, because I don't even think that such a thing as failure exists. I think if we don't take it as a failure, but more as a lesson learned, it's kind of like a school, you sometimes you get, you pass the lesson, then you go on to the next one, you have learned something. And it goes so true for anything, for any area of our lives, right? And
Right.
like even for personal life, for school, for work, you have to, especially if you're in a creative area, I think you have to do a lot of trials and errors. And how many times, how many failures did Newton have before he invented his, he made his inventions, right? And I think any scientist, any musicians. What about your songs, your songwriting? Do you also have this a little, trial and error situation, or it just comes out of you, and you like, this is your first draft and it becomes your last draft when you sing it? How does it work?
Oh, definitely both. And I want to talk about that. But before I do, I just want to tell you the things that I love mishearing. I love mishearing people, even though I know what you said, but still in my mind, I mishear things. You almost said Kink David, and it reminded me of Bob Marley, who has his song Kinky Reggae. I love it because I think he's also Queen Sheba, Ethiopia, was also from King Solomon. And that's why Bob Marley would wear a Star of David,
Right.
which is really cool. And the other thing you said, trial and error, but I also heard child and error. And just like how many children are quote unquote mistakes, but the best thing that ever happened to people in the whole world, and in terms of trial and error in songwriting, yeah, I mean, look, every songwriter probably has different processes, but at least I could speak for myself, and I love to project on all of the songwriters and assume that everyone's writing in the shower, everyone's writing from a place of heartbreak, everyone's sometimes putting out a tune and then filling it with words. Everyone sometimes gets these words or these concepts and then they're building a tune around it. And there's just so many ways. And there's definitely no question is that the more you're writing, the better you're getting at it. And anyone who's experiencing some sort of what they might call writer's block, the first thing I would ask them is like, did you sit down on the couch today or on a chair today with your instrument or with your pen and paper and literally try to write for 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, an hour? Just go and don't stop until something comes out, because usually people are just waiting for it to come down. But sometimes you really have to build a vessel in order to fill that with light. And other times not. Other times the light's coming down and you're just trying to catch the raindrops on your tongue, So that's kind of probably where my experience is. I would also have to say, for me, more than not, a lot of it's coming from fear of heartbreak or experiencing heartbreak or post heartbreak. And I think, who was it? Was it the Rebbe from Kelm, or I forget who, but it's a famous quote, which is, there's nothing more whole than a broken heart. What is that? So I can tell you that when my heart's broken, I for some reason feel like the openness to talk to every beggar on the street. All of a sudden, I'm just full of empathy for everyone and everything, feeling so much, as opposed to, let's say, the guy who or the girl who just had a really, really, really good night with their love partner. Incredible night. They're whistling down the street. Maybe they're just flicking coins into people's charity boxes, but they're just walking by, whistling along, as opposed to the broken heart, which really just might really open you to talk to everyone and everything and around you.
Artists are very special in a way, or people who practice any kinds of arts. That's basically what Artists and Angels is all about, is that we want people to become more sensitive, right, through practicing arts, to open themselves up a little bit more, to maybe even become a little bit more vulnerable, but in a healthy way, because then you can better connect with the world. And I know you have a song you wrote that's called Sensitive too, which is, I think, amazing. I was just listening to that in the morning and I'm like, how true is that? And And I can really relate to, we spoke already a little bit about that, the artists are a little bit like children in a way that they are very open, they're very naive, which is of course very, on the one hand, very dangerous in our world, right? But on the other hand, this is so essential to being connected more and feeling more. I mean, what are your thoughts about that, about the sensitivity, and how vulnerable you can go, and where is your limit, where you just say, okay, that's enough, and or I'm just vulnerable in my own music and in my own element.
Yeah, I do want to touch on that, but I also want to tell you about my relationship with heartbreak and the more that it breaks. And sometimes I feel like it's brick and mortar, and other times I feel like it's like, does it make you stronger, make you more sensitive? Brokenhearted over and over and over again, it hardens you sometimes, and it sometimes makes it harder for the next person to make their way in, as opposed to when you're a child or a teenager, or even in your early 20s, let's say, where you're just like fall in love. You can fall in love easier and quicker, Right. So there's that. And then there's the other thing, which one of my greatest teachers said, Shimon Green, Rabbi Shimon Green. He was also a guitarist, musician, incredible music. And I studied by him for a while. But one of the things that he said that I always loved was, the older you get, the more experience you have. The more experience you have, the better fun you should know how to have, or the better, and you can apply that to anything essentially. So the more relationships you've had, or the more your heart's been broken, the better you may know how to navigate to not get your heart broken. But then there's the whole, better to have loved and lost than have never loved at all. And a lot of people, unfortunately, whose hearts have been broken, never love again at all, because they never become vulnerable again. So where and when does that happen? I think, and I can only speak for myself, probably other people are attracted to other things that help them fall into love again, or help that iceberg melt inside of them again. I once heard this thing is that children, that the creator made children so cute because otherwise it's like their survival mechanism. They're just, right. They take so much work that maybe beauty also for me exists. I'm obsessed with beauty, really, I love beauty. And for me, that's what makes me interested again. It was like, wow, what is this? Who are you? And can I make room in my heart for this beauty again? Because I'm just so attracted to it. I want to have it. I want to make it more. I want to blossom it. I want to see it shine. I want to see it smile. I want to experience those good times. So that is extreme incentive for me. And I assume that other people have other incentives. Some people, it's probably money. Some people, it might be orgasm. Some people, it might be who knows what.
Do you feel like you have a mission, as at your work, as an artist?
Yeah, I definitely feel that music is a vehicle of transportation to a greater destination for me. And I would say that my dream includes, but it is not ultimately just to be a successful singer, songwriter, musician, etc.
Right.
That's just the vehicle, as I mentioned. Really, my dream is the rebuilding of the house of prayer for all nations. And this was destroyed because of baseless hatred, which actually I also heard this from Shimon Green, but a lot of people don't know how to define baseless hatred. And baseless hatred is when people think that you need to agree in order to love. And so essentially, right, Lara, we haven't lived if we haven't loved. That's beautiful. Thank you. And so essentially what people think is that you need to agree in order to love, and that's a tremendous misconception. This misconception is taking place all over the world right now. It's taking place on university campuses. People don't know how to disagree anymore. They're reading from textbooks with just one line written on them, as opposed to, let's say, a page of Talmud where there's 100 opinions on one page. People don't know how to handle disagreement. You can watch it happen on social media. You could watch it happen on college campuses, outside. You could anywhere. It's just you could see it just even on the bus. People, they disagree. They don't know how to create space for another reality, for another potential truth, for a brother truth, a sister truth. And therefore there is no peace. Now, what is peace? Peace is the coming together of opposites or different realities in order to create a better new reality that can contain both parties. People think peace is something else completely, but that's not what peace is. Peace is really opposites coming together to create something new. And this also happens, by the way, we were talking about songwriting. Nuance comes to the world when there's friction, plus and minus, when there's, that's where it comes from. It comes from the argument. The arguments make new ideas come to light. These think tanks that exist, they're not a bunch of people agreeing with each other. They're people saying, yes, but what about this? And then I'll say, oh, that's a great idea. And then something new comes out. I definitely think that essentially House of Prayer for All Nations, which is really the source of peace to the world, or you could say peace to lead to a House of Prayer for All Nations, it's one and the same. It's reminding people that you don't need to agree in order to love, and to learn how to disagree, and to learn how to argue, and to learn how to put opposites together, body and soul, plus and minus, physical and spiritual, light and dark, heaven and earth, in order to come together to create a new, better reality that can contain all of the realities. And that's why the House of Prayer for All Nations is really to contain all realities coming together 3 times a year for this incredible, essential music festival. I think that's my.
How do you feel? How do you feel?
Yes, yeah, let's definitely do an Instagram live. I love Instagram lives. I had a lot of fun on them last time I did one. And I feel extremely thankful right now to you for spending this time with me. Any second time spent with you is incredible. And I'm thankful for you for helping me blossom and helping me express and asking me the questions to make space and make room for me to discover things inside of myself I didn't even know exist. And hopefully, if this brings light to one person, then we have been successful, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
So thank you.